you're an engineer making six figures and still feel stuck, this is why. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexander Akabogu. This is the Engineering Basketball channel, the channel where a degreed engineer and computer scientist working for over a decade in the industry and counting, as well as a former college basketball player, high school and middle school basketball coach, and skills development trainer, shows you how my day-to-day life as an engineer, how I see my job in systems, inputs, processes, outputs. That's exactly how I see the game of basketball. And that's the way the game is going. In this video, I want to talk about how, specifically to my engineers here, how we're making over six figures, but we still feel stuck. Why is that? What is going on here? The first thing I really want to talk about is lifestyle creep eats raises. There are several things I can get into here, right? One being those 3%, 4% cost of living raises are really nothing, right? They're really nothing, and they do not move the needle. We're making an additional $2-3 grand annually. That's probably like, I don't even know the math, $50 a check. It's not life-changing for a year's work. But aside from that, or in addition to that, to compound those small raises, you need to switch roles or switch jobs, especially early in your career. Unfortunately, that's how you pay. That's how you get paid. You go from making $60K a year here, you work for a year, they give you a raise to $63K, right? Which is actually a 5% raise. They give you a raise $63K, but if you're focused, you've gained skills that year. You now update your resume and you apply to a job, they offer you $75K. I make $75K now. I work at that job for a year or two. I go from $75K to $80K. I acquire skills through that time that I'm there. Then I go to a new job, maybe or go to get a promotion. I'm making $95K, so near $100K, right? That's the only way really to get to take advantage of this creep system that they have going on here. But back to the focus of lifestyle creep eats those small raises that you are working very hard for. That's the leased car that now I'm paying. The average car payment is probably $600, $700 a month. People are buying $30,000 cars, making 70, 60 grand. That's not smart, right? The new car, the bigger house, not for nothing, starting a family earlier than maybe you should. Those lifestyle creeps, the bigger house, the vacations, those changes and adjustments really will eat at you and your profits. The goal is to keep your expenses low, especially early. Keep your expenses low. Raise your income as much as you can at your job and outside of your job, right? And then that difference, that yield, you must invest that yield. And as you're investing that yield, you're understanding a little more and more and more how to get better at investing. That's, a 401k progressing to possibly a Roth IRA, progressing to an HSA, right? To maybe understanding an individual taxable brokerage account, to maybe even opening up a small business, right? Those are the things you understand slowly and surely, and you give yourself room to think by keeping your expenses low. Because if your expenses are high, you really have no wiggle room, right? You need to go to work tomorrow. There's a terminology that I use a lot, and I communicate with my wife about this. It's called luxuries once tasted become necessities, right? That luxury of flying business class, that luxury of randomly going on, Euro trips every year, the luxury of getting that 4-star, 5-star hotel just because. Now you can't just rough it. Now you can't just get a small hotel and just enjoy a new city. You must spend so much just to get there. The 3x price of the flight, the double price of the hotel, the double price of the dinners. Just go get a burger and some fries, man. Just go get a burger and some fries. Go get some boneless wings, and chill. I'd rather, instead of paying 5 times more to get to a trip, I'd rather take 5 trips. I'd rather take 5 trips than pay 5 times more just to get to one trip. That's all I'm saying. It's no investing system. I know I discussed about this in extension, but I want to say it again because that's how important it is. You need to have a system of investing. People just save randomly into a savings account, and I hope it's a high yield savings account. People just save randomly. They put $300 into a savings account this month, $700 next month, $100 the month after, and it just sits there. And then they use it. Maybe they overspend on their credit card this month, so they pull from their savings. There's no plan. There's no automation. There's no removal of human error. That's automatically investing in your 401k. That's automatically investing into your HSA. And investing, not just contributing, investing. That's automatically investing into, a brokerage account or a Roth IRA, other things. So then what I have left truly is kind of profit, but you need to make sure you protect your upside with investing. And the last thing is no income growth strategy, right? I've talked about this before in extension on my previous videos. A lot of people just out here just, working and hoping the job will pay them more. That's not going to happen. The job will not pay you more. The job will not pay you what you need to survive. You need to wiggle. You need to wiggle, right? You need to wiggle. You need to learn and earn with purpose. You need to learn and earn with purpose. You need to make sure you're choosing tasks or pulling from the tasks that they give you, because you don't always have a choice. Pulling skills that the market is asking for, the market needs, the market pays for, right? So if you're working on project work and you're doing grunt work and you're up with India at 3 a.m. testing a circulatory water system, you know how to incrementally test. You know how to run a virtual controller, right? You know how to set up a system. You know how to list initial conditions, how to build processes and build test plans. You know how to run a project. That's a skill. People pay for that skill. Pay attention, right? That's a skill. People pay high money for that skill. So there has to be a plan to these things, because then after that project is done and you're getting grunt work, and then you go to your boss and you're in an annual review and he says, hey, good job today, Johnny. Here's a 3% raise. You say, beautiful. The market's asking me for a 20% raise. I'm about to leave. You leave. You get out. That's the only way, really, as an engineer in my eyes, in today's day and age, is to learn and earn with purpose, to avoid lifestyle creep, and to build a system for investing. That's the only way you can really have some wiggle in this life, because engineering is interesting. It's a great degree to have, and a lot of very intelligent people are engineers to start. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. I'll even throw computer science in there, right? Mark Zuckerberg. But they understand its limitations. You earn a decent amount early, but it's really capped. You need to use your brain outside of work. So with that being said, I'll say it's not about how much you make. It's about what you build with it. It's about what you build with what you make. Thank you for watching my video. Over and out.